but we got to get around the city with the Detroit news. And obviously, Lions training camp is big news, but we also got the Detroit Tigers and what they should do at this trade deadline. Rod, if you're still with us, I wanted to be able to ask you about what do we make of the Detroit Tigers? They're 50-52. They went into this gauntlet, and they've absolutely handled business right now. And obviously, whether they can kind of make it into the playoffs or not, it seems like they have somewhat of a foundation and a direction they can now follow. What's your take on these Detroit Tigers?
I mean, where was this at the beginning? This is what we said they needed to do in the first 50 games, not in the first 100. Like, you got to be there and hover around 500. And when they went under it, like 10 games under, that's when people kind of threw the towel in on it. But if they could have stayed 2, 3, 5 games and not really dipped below that, I think there would have been some more optimism about it. But they're playing well. You're winning your schoolboy days, which you need to do, and you can get the Flahertys. I think what we've talked about before is the Maeda ones are the ones that are really hurting you. Is you just don't have a legitimate shot every day when Maeda pitches. Now they put him in the bullpen, but how much damage is done? You've only got about 60 games left. How can you make up that ground to try to get back in the wild card hunt? They got a little bit more time to figure it out, but it may be a little bit too late to jump back in the race.
Yeah, Rod, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for joining. I just want to ask you, what's your strategy at this deadline for the Tigers? Whether that includes Skubal, Flaherty, what are you doing if you're Scott Harris, if you're running this front office?
I think you answer the phone on every trade offer there is. If there is something for Skubal that's compelling, you listen to it. Compelling has to be, and Lynn Henning wrote about this last week, that if you're talking about the number one prospect who's a shortstop, I can listen to that, but you've got to give me something else. You've got to blow the doors off for me to try to get rid of Skubal at this point. Jack Flaherty, I can listen to that also. I don't know that the Tigers can go out and be buyers right now, because what are you buying? Is it more starting pitching with Reese Olson out? You definitely need a bat, so you're going to need multiple items. You got to be in the 3 items or more line with getting more pitching, getting more hitting, and some other pieces that you might need for the bullpen. So I just don't know that they have the pieces to go out and buy. I think you may just either stay pat and hope something changes dramatically, or you can sell a couple of pieces and hope that something else changes.
Yeah, right. And I wanted to bring it over to the Lions. Of course, training camp set to start, it has started actually. And we all know what the goal is. Super Bowl, everybody on the team knows it from management down. But what are your biggest storylines that you're looking forward to this season?
I'm just looking for the defense. Where's the defense right now? Are they going to be 23rd in the league again, or can they make the jump even just to the top half? You jump in the top half, and you're talking about a big difference. Expected contributions from St. Brown, from Goff. Jahmyr Gibbs may make that leap into being sort of a star back in the league. The offense is going to be good. Can you stay injury-free is one of the big things, though. And if you have injuries, which you kind of do in football, are they to your critical players, and are they for critical lengths of time?
Yeah, Rod, we see this with a couple of the Lions' potential rivals this season. We see it with the Packers. Jordan Love, he doesn't have a long-term extension yet. He's not practicing with the team. CeeDee Lamb with the Cowboys, he's not reporting to camp because he doesn't have his long-term extension. But with the Lions, Jared Goff got his, Amon-Ra St. Brown got his, and Penei Sewell got his, 3 of your cornerstone pieces for the future. What does that say about Brad Holmes and just the organizational infrastructure as a whole?
You're not about that drama. We're not about talking about contracts and questions about is he, will he, won't he. Let's get all of this stuff done so we can get down to play football and focus on the main goal. Keep the main thing the main thing.
That's right.
And that the fact that your front office has done that, much like the Cade thing with the Pistons, I mean, it's not quite as critical, but you don't have these lingering questions going into camp, and you don't have reporters asking about this side stuff. Dan Campbell this morning was just about, hey, what are these couple of pup list injuries that those were the types of issues. How do you maintain the success that you had last year? Those are the questions that you want to ask in your opening presser, not about what's the contract thing, what is Goff going to do, what are we doing with Sewell, what are we doing with Amon-Ra? Do you think that's going to be, yes, it's a distraction. It's always a distraction. Even when the players say that it's not, it is.
Oh man, I love that answer. You should have seen you should have seen me. I was pretty excited when you gave that one.
It was on like windmill arms and everything, Rod.
Hey, but
spirit fingers, all that stuff.
Hey, that's what I do. But you mentioned the PUP list. Are you, Rod Beard, concerned at all about Brian Branch, Marcus Davenport, and DJ Reader starting off training camp on the PUP list, or do you think that's all one big nothing burger?
I think I wouldn't say it's a nothing burger. It's a something burger, but it's just like an impossible burger. It's not real meat. It's just filler, and it's not quite the same. So it's something, but it's not really something I'm concerned about because those guys come off the PUP list as the training camp progresses, and I don't think it's a big deal right now. We knew DJ Reader probably would be. The Brian Branch, he's on a knee scooter. Okay, yeah, whatever. And Marcus Davenport, we kind of knew that coming in too, that he was nursing an injury.
Yeah, right. And a big storyline all off season long, shout out Flannel Sam, is Jameson Williams, man. He has been the topic of the off season. I would say probably the biggest factor of the off season. Is he ready to step into that number 2 wide receiver role in your opinion? And what are your expectations for him?
I mean, let's go back to the first question. Is everything else a distraction? If Jameson Williams is your top offseason story, then you've done well as a front office. That's the biggest thing you have to worry about going into training camp. But to answer your question, I think he's poised for a big year. And if he can be that number 2, it means just everything else is going right, that you need to worry about your number 2 guy. Yeah, defenses are going to skew their extra coverage towards Sun God, but it's not going to be something where if Jameson Williams is tracking down balls and the ones over his shoulders he's able to pull in, those were the ones where you were kind of holding your breath and saying, if he gets this, now it's something. He hadn't been able to do it quite a bit last year, but when he started doing it, you were seeing the flashes of this is what he could be. I think he makes that jump this year, and if he can be a solid number 2 and Donovan Peoples-Jones can be a solid contributor too, then this offense is just humming. What are you going to do at that point? You got so many different pieces that you just can't do anything with.
Yeah, love that answer, Rye. And finally, or at least for me, Dan Campbell. We all know his aggressive nature. We know that it's won us a lot of games, and we also know that there are times where it maybe have cost us a lot of games. What do you expect from him, especially with the addition of Jake Bates? Do you think that he gets less aggressive? Do you think he stays the same? What do you expect from Dan Campbell going into this season? Do we see anything different?
I think he's going to be a little bit less aggressive naturally because he touched the stove last year and just kind of, that burned. I took a little bit too many chances. So he's going to be a little bit less, but he's going to still take some of those. And now when you have a kicker that you have that complete confidence in, and I don't know if they're at that point with Jake Bates yet, but when you have that ultimate confidence that, hey, this dude can bang it from 60, then you take some fewer of those chances. But I think some of it is just the analytics. You're looking at the card and you're saying, this is what it says to do in this scenario, but then some of it is still gut too, to say, I think this will win us the game if we go for it here, and he'll do a little bit of that too.
Yep. And just one more question, Rob, before we let you go. We're going to talk about it a little bit as well. Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell, the second-year players. We're going to talk about who is more important, whose success is more important to the Lions this season ahead, but I wanted you to be able to kick it off before we give our answers in the next segment.
I think it's Jahmyr Gibbs because he as a third down back, he's so dynamic and versatile that he can keep that linebacker guessing. He makes your defense kind of skew that way. And again, we talked about all of these other pieces. If Jahmyr Gibbs is a solid 1,000-yard back with, 600 yards receiving, then you got a problem if you're the defense. So if he can make that little step forward, that's going to be huge for the offense and then just for everything. Again, you might not have to worry about your defense as much if your offense is just putting a bunch of points on the board. You got 30 points every game. Your defense can be bad and you're still okay.
Ooh, I like this, man. Rod, you brought the fire today, man. You brought the heat.